So yesterday I popped out for a bit of a photo walk. I took my Fujifilm X-T10 camera out with me, and I had a manual focus lens on it. And one of the things I found a little bit frustrating was that when I was focusing I only saw the whole image, and it was kind of quite difficult to know whether it was actually in focus or not. I thought there was a way of zooming in, but I didn't find it. And this video is for people who just grab a camera, who aren't familiar with it and want to know how to make sure that their manual focus lens is giving them a good image that's in focus. So let's have a look at focusing with a manual lens on a Fujifilm. This is the Fujifilm X-T10. Hopefully it'll wake up. There we go. Okay, so things to remember when you've got a manual lens on a Fujifilm camera. Just need to go into the menu settings, and if you jump down to the third menu, just make sure that the option to shoot without lens is on, because with a manual lens it doesn't recognize that there is a lens attached to the camera because there are no electrical connections. So that's why that has to be on. And also in menu 4, a good tip is when it's in manual focus assist mode, there are some options there which we'll go into in a moment. But let's just go back up to our first menu, which you'll see some autofocus settings. So you might think these won't have an impact because it's a manual lens, but let's have a look at those. So what you see at the moment are the autofocus modes. Let's just have a look at those. So you've got single, zone and wide and tracking. Now there's a difference with single point compared to zone and wide tracking. With single point you can actually zoom in, and this is one of the things I didn't realise. So if I leave it on zone, and we'll just have a look at the image of the car. I'm just going to use my eyes to see if that's in focus or not. So this is what I was doing yesterday. I was just went out with the camera as it is and just focusing with the back screen, and I was also using the aperture ring. So it was a very manual way of using the camera. The only thing I was changing or had my eye on was the ISO and the shutter speed. Shutter speed isn't going to be a problem because it's on a tripod, so 80 is fine. But this is what I was doing. I couldn't work out how to zoom in, and it wasn't zooming in. So, but if you press the rear command dial in, nothing happens, and that's because it's in zone autofocus mode. And the same would happen if it was in wide autofocus mode. So let's just go back to our menu and choose single point, and then go back to the image of the car. Now when I press the rear command dial in, it zooms in on that square, and I can, if I turn the dial, nothing happens, but I can at least see in a bit more detail with a bit more clarity if that image is in focus or not, or that where I want to have the focus is in focus. Currently it's set to right in the center, but again, if I go to the autofocus settings, if I choose focus area, I can move it to, let's move it to one of the headlights. So now when I press the rear command dial in, it zooms in on that particular part of the screen. And if I do that again, let's choose another focus area. Let's say I want something over there in focus, just to illustrate that the focus area is moving, or the zoom point is moving. So there you go, that light in the background. So the focus moved over to there. That helps you control where you're zooming into. So let's just move that back to a central area. Okay. The other thing I wasn't really aware of yesterday, because I wasn't really looking, there's a switch at the front of the camera. Let's just make sure that's in focus. There we go. So this switch here goes from manual, continuous and single shot. So that's a selector switch there, and we'll have a look at the impact of changing that when we go into the camera. So I'm just going to move that back there and just check my focus on the image here. Yep, you can see that. So let me just go into the menu, focus settings. AF mode is single point. Now when I move that switch at the front of the camera to manual, to the M position, you now see that it says manual focus, and I can't select that option. So that's a tip really, is to change if you're going to use a manual focus lens, make sure it's in manual focus at the front of the camera. You don't normally look at the front of the camera, and I didn't yesterday, and that was my mistake. But again, if I use the magnifier, I can zoom in so that I know that's in focus, and I can also turn it and it will zoom in once more. You might be wondering, what's all that noise on the screen? There's that red shading. Well, remember the peaking setting. Let's just go back. Go back to the fourth menu, Manual Focus Assist. So currently it's set to focus peak, highlight, red, high. So on the X-T10 you've got a choice of 3 colours. You can have white, red and blue. I've currently got it set to red. And what that does is it adds that overlay. It's kind of like pixelation on the screen. And if I move the focus plane manually with the lens, you can see that line of red pixels moves. Changes the focal, as I change the focal plane, you see those pixels moving. So where they're sort of showing up more, that's where the focus point is. That's what's in focus. So that's a really helpful thing to have. I was shooting yesterday in black and white. Let's just have a look at that. So I'm going to go into the quick menu, and I'm just going to change the film simulation to monochrome. And you can see that very clearly now because it's in red. You see where the focus is. I can either move to the back of the car or to the front of the car. And I can also zoom in. And I can also turn the dial and zoom in even further if I decide to. It becomes a bit clearer in black and white, I think, to see the pixels. And the good thing about the peaking is that you may have an image that is predominantly red, so your peaking pixels wouldn't have any contrast with the subject. So that's the reason why you've got different options. So blue might stand out more, or white might stand out more with a predominantly red image. So in later cameras, in later models, there are more options. I think the yellow is another option. I don't know if there are any others, but these are the three colours on this particular model. You have other types of assistance as well. Standard just gives you the image, so let's go back. So if I zoom in, I just see the image on the screen. I don't have any peaking. But again, it's better than what I had yesterday without any assistance at all.